Okay, hi everybody. This is Mr. Manning, and this is going to be a video about how to do some basic selections in Photoshop. Selecting items in Photoshop is extremely important. Whenever you're working with something, if it is on the same layer as something else, you have to select it first before you can make any changes to it. So being able to select things is important, and also using the correct selection tool is important. We're going to go over 3 different selection tools today, and to follow along with me, you can use the signs picture that I have sent out to you, and if you need that, I will post it on Edmodo, or you can also ask me and I will send it to your computer. Okay, so I already have my signs picture pulled up here, and I am going to make a selection of this Coca-Cola sign. The reason we're going to do that is I want to change the color of the Coca-Cola sign, but I do not want to change anything about the stop sign or about this welcome sign. So the first thing I'm going to do is zoom in so I can really easily see the Coca-Cola sign. And you've learned about several different ways to zoom. I'm going to use the navigator. I just want to get a really nice close view of my Coca-Cola sign. This will make it a lot easier for me to be really detailed. Next thing, I'm going to select the rectangle selection tool. The rectangle selection tool is the second tool down from the top. If you do a right click on it, you can see that there are actually 4 selection tools in this section. There's a rectangle, there's an elliptical, which is just kind of a fancy word for circle or oval. And then there's also the single row. I will be honest, I almost never use the single row. So unless if you have a very specific purpose for that one, you probably won't either. I'm going to choose the rectangle selection tool. The reason I'm choosing that is because the shape of the Coca-Cola sign is a rectangle. If this was any other shape, like a circle or a triangle or something, I probably would not use this tool. But since it's a rectangle, that's the one I'm going to use. Alright, once I have this selected, I bring my cursor over here to the workspace, and you can see that my cursor looks like a cross. I'm going to try to line that up as close as possible to one of the corners on the Coca-Cola sign. I'm going to do a left click and hold it, and I'm going to drag a box around the Coca-Cola sign. Now, you might get just a little bit outside the lines. If you do just a little bit, it's okay. Once you are happy with your selection, you're going to let go, and Photoshop is going to place a blinking kind of dotted line that is moving around your selection. I sometimes call this the ants marching line, because to me it kind of looks like little ants are following each other around the selection. This is just simply Photoshop's way of telling you that the item is selected. So at this point, the only thing that I can make a change to is the Coca-Cola sign. If I attempt to change anything else, it's not going to work while my selection is on the screen. So if I wanted to go down and change the color of the stop sign or something, it wouldn't work right now, because the only thing that can be changed is the item that is inside the selection, and right now that's the Coca-Cola sign. Okay, let's change the color of this thing. Since I have it selected, I'm going to go up here to my image drop-down menu. I'm going to choose adjustments. I have a whole bunch of options here on how I can adjust the sign. You're welcome to play around with these if you want to, but I want to change the color. So I'm going to choose hue and saturation. It's like the 6th one down. I click on that, and this little box appears. Alright, hue is right here, and it's got a little slider bar. Hue is a word for color. It basically just means all of the different colors in the light spectrum or in the rainbow. If I move this little arrow to the left and right, my Coca-Cola sign is going to start to change colors. See, right now I've got it purple. Now it's starting to turn kind of a dark blue into almost a greenish blue color. If I move to the other way, now I've got kind of an orangish rusty color, and it's going to start to become a yellowish green into green, and so on. You can move this slider back and forth as much as you want until you find the shade that you want to use. I think I will choose this beautiful blue, almost a purple. Now, you can also play around with the saturation. Saturation is how much color is in the object. If I move this slider all the way to the left, I am removing all color. So it's going to go to basically a black and white. If I move this slider all the way to the right, I am adding a lot of color. In fact, this purple looks really saturated. It's really a deep purple now. The problem with saturating is sometimes you can oversaturate, and you might notice on mine I've got these areas that some like greenish colors have all of a sudden shown up. So I don't really want to saturate it too much, maybe just something like that. And then lightness, of course, can change the brightness or how light the object is. You're welcome to play around with that slider as well. Once you like your results, you're going to hit OK. And Photoshop is going to change your Coca-Cola sign to that color. Now, you'll notice I still have my selection made. So at this point, I need to deselect. There's several different ways that you can deselect something. You can go up here to the Select drop-down menu and choose Deselect. You can also use the shortcut, which is personally my favorite, and you can just hit Control-D on your keyboard. Or if you're in a big hurry and you can easily do it, you can actually move your selection tool outside of the selection and do a one single click anywhere outside the selection, and your selection will leave. All right. Next, we're going to go down to the stop sign. So I'm going to move my workspace to the stop sign. I need to zoom out just a little bit so I can see the whole thing. It might be a little too much. All right, that'll work. Now, the stop sign is not a perfect shape. It's not a perfect rectangle. It's not a perfect triangle. It's not a perfect circle. However, it does have straight edges all the way around it. In fact, it's kind of an octagon. Because it has straight edges, I'm going to use a tool that's called the polygonal lasso. That's kind of tough to say, polygonal. The lasso tools are the third tool down. They're directly beneath your rectangle. If I do a right click on it, you can see that there are 3 different lassos. There's the regular lasso tool. This one will follow your cursor no matter where it goes. So if you're going to use this one, you have to have a really steady hand. The polygonal lasso tool will make straight lines, and you can move those straight lines around. And then finally, the magnetic lasso will actually attach itself to the edges. For this one, since the stop sign has straight lines all the way around it, I'm going to choose the polygonal. I move my cursor to one of the points, doesn't matter which one I choose. I'm going to do a single left click. When I do that, I'm actually setting an anchor. And I have anchored my selection in that spot. Now, if I move my cursor around, you can see that that one spot stays in place while the other parts of the line move. I'm going to move my line all the way up to the next point on the stop sign. I'm going to do another left click just one time. And now I have set a second anchor. The first anchor is now set in place, and my second anchor is where I am moving from. I'm going to keep going all the way around the stop sign. Each time I hit a point where I want to make a turn, I'm going to do a single left click, set that anchor, and keep going on around. The polygonal lasso tool is really perfect for anything that has straight edges. If it's a rectangle or a square, you can just use that tool. But if it's any other shape, like this one, this octagon, the polygonal lasso tool is really the best option. Now, when I get all the way back to where I started, I'm going to hover my cursor above my original anchor. You'll see that there's a little circle that has popped out from my lasso. That is telling me that I am about to complete my selection. I do a left click one time, and Photoshop creates the selection. If at any point you're having problems making it complete the selection, you can actually do a quick double click and it will also make the selection. Now, I've made the selection. I can change the color of this by doing it the same thing that I did before. I'm going to go to my image drop-down menu, choose adjustments. This time let's change it black and white. So I hit black and white. It's changed it. I'm not going to really play with any of these sliders. You're welcome to do that if you want to. And I hit OK. Now I'm going to deselect my stop sign. I'm going to choose Control D on my keyboard. And then I'm going to move down to my last final sign. That is this cute little puppy dog sign. Now, this guy is kind of a strange shape. It doesn't have any straight edges. It's not a perfect circle or square. So when you come up to something that doesn't have real defined shape, the best way to go is with the magnetic lasso. And the magnetic lasso is in the same section as the polygonal. It's just the next one down. Now, the magnetic lasso does exactly what it sounds like. It actually acts like a magnet, and it attaches itself to the edges of things. So I'm going to bring my cursor to any part of the edge of the sign. I do a left click one time. It sets an anchor. And I am going to start moving my cursor along the edge of the sign. As I do that, Photoshop is going to start to set its own anchors. You can see these tiny little squares that it is placing along my selection. If at any point it sets an anchor in a place that I do not want, like for instance if I go up here on accident and it sets an anchor, I can hit delete on my keyboard and it will take that anchor away. Also, if I get to a point where Photoshop doesn't want to, for some reason, set an anchor in a place that I want it to, I can use left click on my mouse and it will set a manual anchor for me, and then I can keep going with my selection. This takes a little bit of patience, especially the first time you do it. So don't go too fast. Make sure that you're getting along the edges really well. And set those manual anchors if you need to. And then also maybe have a finger on the delete key in case if you accidentally set one that you don't want. As you continue to do this and you get a little bit of additional practice, this will go much, much faster for you. Alright, I'm almost back to where I started. When I get back to where I started, I'm going to do exactly like I did with the polygonal lasso. I'm going to do a quick double click, and Photoshop is going to enclose or complete my selection for me. I get the little ants marching dotted line that's moving around. At this point, if you want to, you can zoom in really close and make sure that you have done a good job. For this one, it looks like I did a pretty good job. I don't see any obvious mistakes. So I can once again change the color. I'm going to make this sign green. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and I'm going to change the color of my sign to kind of a bright lime green almost. I hit OK. To deselect, I can do Control D, or I can click outside of my selection. I'm going to do Control D, and I have deselected my sign. Now finally I'm going to zoom back out so I can see everything that I've done. Oh yeah, that looks great. Okay, thanks for watching this video. If you have any more questions at all about how to make selections using the rectangle selection tool or any of the lassos, please ask me, watch the video again, or nudge your neighbor. Thank you.